All right, welcome back to Judging Bouncing Balls. It's Jeremy, joined by Toby and Jake. Toby, if you want to say a little piece, then we'll introduce our guest, Jake.
It's just good to be back. It's been another week. Good success coming off of last week's podcast. I'm excited to get another guest, our second guest of many. But we've been chasing Jake around for a couple weeks now, and he's been jet setting all over this great earth. But Jake, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Jake Zulewski, been a big fan of the pod since it came out. We've been a long time listener, first time caller. So glad to be here with you guys and look forward to talking about youth sports and maybe a little bit more about refereeing. I've been a referee in soccer now for 7 years. I've now jumped into basketball too, so I've been doing that for 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Should tell you a little bit more about my other background. I've got 3 kids, and that's what got me into youth sports. One that's in college now, doing a lot of intramural sports, but he played soccer and hockey and baseball, and now plays some basketball too. And then I've got a daughter in high school, and she's playing soccer and running, and she was playing club and high school, and then Claire, which you guys both know, is on your daughter's team, and Claire's playing club soccer as well as club and high school. Not high school yet, but she's on a high school feeder program for basketball. So lots of youth sports in this household. We're doing a lot of traveling, just like you guys have talked about. So all the topics is certainly hit close to home here.
Awesome. So, give us the lowdown on your background. On our first guest, we kind of went back. You can go back as far as you want. Kind of what led you to this point. The kind of the 5-minute bio on Jake Zulewski.
Yeah, sure. So, as it comes to we've moved here in Wisconsin about 8 years ago, but we've kind of been slowly working our way around Lake Michigan. I was in Detroit. Grew up a Lions fan, grew up all Detroit sports teams fans.
Oh boy.
We lived in Kalamazoo for 15 years or so, and I got married there, went to college there, moved around over to Chicago. I spent 6 or 7 years, and I made the cardinal sin of fatherhood. My son, I brought him up to be all Detroit sports fan, and then we moved to Chicago, and he ditched all my teams. He's a Bears fan. He's a White Sox fan, so
Wow.
all Blackhawks. So I lost that. So we moved to, Appleton, Green Bay area here, 8 years ago. And I actually made the jump. I cut ties to the Lions, and now I'm a Packers fan. So that's, I'm still hearing about that from my family, but various work promotions and job moves have moved us here. And, I grew up playing soccer. I played basketball. I played a little baseball even up until about 8th grade. And so I've always had sports around me. And as a dad, got kids into sports right away. I've done coaching, mostly on the real little kid side, although I did some high school soccer coaching for the first time last year, and just really love being around it. It's a part of who I am. It's shaped who I am, and it's I think shaping who our kids are and how they grow up.
Oh, interesting. So you were a Lions fan, then you switched. Man, yeah, they would be giving you some grief right now after the last game.
And like people from work would say, if it was the Lions and the Packers in the NFC finals to get to the Super Bowl, you can't tell me you wouldn't be rooting for the Lions. And I say, yeah, you're probably right. I probably would switch back, and my Detroit fans tell me, oh, there's room for you back on the bus, but I'm going to get grief no matter what now. So I'm just, maybe I have 2 favorite teams, and if they're playing each other, I root for the Packers, but if they're not, then I've got another team to cheer for.
There you go.
I don't
Fair
think we
enough.
have to worry about the Lions making it that far. Let's be honest.
Yeah, see, that's what the Packer fans will all say. Is like, we just tolerate you Lions fans. We know you're not doing anything anyways.
Right.
So at least you're not a Bears fan or a Vikings fan.
Exactly. Amen. Well, one of the things I picked up, Jake, was that in your background, obviously you were a high level athlete like Toby and I. So you
Right.
will fit in great on this show because we all participated at, the highest of levels athletically. So that's good.
Yeah,
Nobody
for
does
sure.
background checks, so just
Oh yeah.
we're fine.
Yeah, you
We're
picked up
fine.
on that eighth grade baseball, I was really, really throwing some heat back then.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So what led you to reffing?
So, yeah, so my son was, I think at 13, you can become a soccer referee, and he wanted to go through the training. And soccer has, to their credit, a pretty good development program for young referees. And they do in classroom learning as well as, 8 to 12 hours of online learning as well. So he was going to take the class. And for whatever reason, he had to go take a class down in Fond du Lac, which was 45 minutes away. And I'm like, if I'm going to drive you all that way to that class, I might as well take it too. And I just kind of on a whim signed up for it. And he enjoyed reffing, maybe certainly not as much as I do. I think I was made for it. I should have been a ref 20 years ago. It was my calling. I really enjoy it. When I grew up playing board games around the house, everyone called me the rules guy. If you land on free parking on Monopoly, you're not getting $500. That's not in the rules. So yeah. So I've always been that guy that knew the rules, and so since I wasn't competing anymore on a high level or any level for that matter, the refereeing was really calling to me. So it puts you right into the game. You're involved in every play. You really understand the game more, how it flows, where when players are making good passes, you just really, it's like watching the game on a whole nother level, even more so than coaching, I think, because you're right there next to the plays. And so I've really taken that to heart and tried to become better at it. I watch YouTube videos, I go to classes. I just recently went to a recertification class to get a higher level referee soccer certification. So it's been fun for me. And, yeah, they pay you to run around, exercise in a game that you love. And I joke with my wife that I'd probably do it for free, but, maybe not as much, but I like it that much.
So it's, I'm going to say this politely, correctly, Jake. So they don't just give out referee cards, because I've seen some pretty poor referees. So they everybody's got 10 to 12 hours, and that's the product that I've seen on some of the fields.
So, yeah, so it depends what you're watching. For club soccer, I would say they do it the best from the three sports I've been around: club soccer, high school soccer, and then basketball. I'll just lump all basketball together. The club soccer, yeah, every year you have to get recertified. So it's not only the first time you get the 8-hour classroom plus 8 to 12 hours of online certification. Every year you have to do recertification. You have to be updated on rule changes. And then they also have focus areas that they want you to look at, whether that's sometimes it's offside or sometimes it's, controlling benches and foul selection. So there's there's a recertification every year, and as well as some other stuff around concussions and safe sport and all of that about just keeping the kids safe. So the high school sports. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, what are the different, what are the is there a level 6 ref, or what are the levels that you go through?
Yeah,
when you first get your first one, you can do young kids, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Is that
So
a level 1, or is it?
Yeah. So if you're 13 years old, you start out as a level 9 referee. I think they're going through a transition right now on that, and they're getting rid of the number grades, but it's the easiest way to describe it. So I'll just stick with that because I don't necessarily understand the new classification that they're doing. But yeah, so you can be an 8 or a 9. And 8 just means you're not 13. So I was a level 8 up until last year. So Yeah, so that no big deal. So you just get
You
a
never guess it.
certification, you're automatically a level 8. Yeah. So
Okay.
so
All
that
right.
I think technically a level 8 can ref and anywhere up to like any youth soccer, U19 even. So they have assigners that know your skill level, and they can see your history of what kinds of games. So they're not going to put you in a position to fail. So they'll control what competition level you get. But technically, I can do our youth national league games. You can do that at a level 8, although they're preferring you to get higher level certification, and you get the better games by getting higher certifications or getting your name out there. And when you get some of these high level competitions like State Cup or President's Cup, you get exposure to some of the assigners and the assessors. Yeah, they do a good job of monitoring that. They have assessors come and watch you referee, and then they come and pull you aside and give you notes on what you missed, what you could have done better. I've been pretty impressed. As you joke around about some of the refs you see, and sometimes I think it's just a matter of either bad habits or they're just in it for the $35 paycheck or whatever it is for that game. So some of them do just go through the motions, but they have to choose to do that. The certification and training is there for them if they want it.
So is level 1? Does it go all the way to 1? And would that be like
Yeah.
your
So
World Cup?
level 6 and 5, I believe, and so hopefully there's no other referees watching this, because I don't know. I'll
We
say
lie all the
something and
time.
you'll say, yeah, that's true. But I think once you get to level 6, there's different certifications for different leagues. So if you're going to do college, you have to get their certification through their program, just like to be a high school referee, it's a separate certification than club. So each different governing body has their own rules. Sometimes they count up on the clocks and they don't allow stoppage time. So they might have slightly different rules. But to go further, yeah, a 6 and a 5 gets more of the regional games, maybe adult or semi-professional games. And then as you work up to a level 1, a level 1 would be a FIFA, World Cup referee. So really I'm only like 6 steps away from being a FIFA World Cup referee. So that's not
You got time.
Closer than us.
Plenty of time. We're 9, actually 10.
But we at our recent training, we had a national referee. He's probably like, we would say like a level 4 or 5 referee. He's doing, he could do MLS games potentially. He came and talked to us, and the process is so rigorous to continue to move up. You have to get assessed in different states. You have to have multiple assessments. They have to be close games. They have to be a certain level. And it's really, and you have to have like hundreds of games where you're the center at a certain level of competition. And so the process, when you see these guys on TV, it's just impressive to know the steps that they took to get to that level.
Well, that makes sense too. But I mean, you think about the players have to kind of go through that same process. They have to go through multiple levels just to get to there. So I like that happens. You mentioned something I want to touch base on. You said that there's quite a bit that you need to go through to get certified for doing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But you also said you've done basketball. So compare the youth levels between each other. Like you almost made it seem like maybe basketball wasn't as rigorous to become a referee at that level.
Yeah, I don't want to get myself in trouble or speak out
No.
of turn, but I think really what
See if we get Jake fired.
what I went through to get my certification to be able to referee a high school game was, you go onto the website, you take like a 50 question or 100 question test to show that you know the rules, and then they mail you a certification letter. And so that was it. There was no training. So anything that I did in training, I knew the rules of the game from coaching and playing, but all the hand signals, this is a violation, this is a foul, how to work a 2-man crew where you have certain areas of the court you're watching and the other ref has, and then there's, you swap out when there's a foul call, and there's all this, all the basketball has a lot more pageantry as far as the hand signals and motions, and there's a whole lot more of the mechanics that you need to learn. So I did a lot of like YouTube. I think a lot of younger referees or people doing it probably should have done it different than me, like start at third and fourth grade, learn, get up to sixth grade, seventh, work your way up to high school. I did one sixth grade girls game, and then I got a call, hey, we need a JV boys high school ref. And I was like, okay. And I took it. And so I had refed one game, maybe it was two games, and then I went and did a high school game, and thank God it was a blowout, because I was learning as I went, and my level, my curve, learning curve was very steep, but you just jump into the deep end of the pool and you got to swim. So there's nobody else out there. And thankfully the refs kind of, with the 2-man system, one will pick you up if you're missing something. And so the referee community is pretty tight, and they look out for each other. And you always have like a pregame meeting. Hey, I've only been doing this for 2 games. You're going to have to help me. And they want more referees. So that is something I really wanted to get out there, is that we need referees. And that was another reason I got into it too, is just because you constantly hear that. And so, excuse me, it helps that I like it. But there's a lot of kids that try it, and whether it's the abuse they get from coaches or parents or players, that they try it and they're done. So hopefully, the state and the country can get a hand on more of these referees and do something to keep them in the game.
Yeah, they basically called you and asked if you had a pulse, and then they got you in and got you involved. It's funny because you mentioned, I'm sorry I'm on my phone, but I'm looking for something I just saw from the WIAA, and it was in regards to becoming an official. I was hoping I could find it here really quick, but if I can't, the long and short basically was, you're frustrated with a call on the floor. Would you rather yell at the ref and then eventually drive referees away so that we basically don't have any games? Or would you just like to, swallow it and enjoy the game for what it is? Basically saying, let's stop riding the refs every second we can, because you're driving people away from the game. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's a nervousness. You mentioned it, from young people. They don't want to go out there, especially with the way anxiety is today, and have a bunch of people pissed at them because they made the bad call, or maybe they didn't make the call that somebody wanted. Yeah.
It's thankfully I have thick skin and maybe bad hearing, because I hear at the end of the game, oh, those parents must have been all over you, and like I didn't hear a thing. So it either rolls off me, or so coaches, I give them a lot of leeway. I give parents a lot of leeway. I know there's referees out there that draw a line, and Toby, I was there the day you got chastised for saying a comment, and I'm like, this guy, I don't think that was necessary, to be honest. I think
I didn't either.
The way they're training referees, though, is to say what you tolerate, you're accepting, I think. And so they're saying, so if you don't want them to do that to that 15-year-old referee that's out there, then say something, and maybe that changes how a parent or a coach treats a referee. But yeah, I think I one of the stories I was remembering was when we had the silent weekend. Were you guys in youth soccer when they had silent weekend or something?
Where they gave out suckers.
I don't remember that.
So
I ate my sucker right away. Like I just chomped it. I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
I was hungry.
They did a weekend or a week of youth soccer where they said there would be no cheering, positive or negative. We're going to have absolute silence on the sidelines. And I think it was to draw attention or send a message that referee abuse is a thing, and we need to put an end to it. I think they probably went too far with that. And I think it depends on the team, it depends on the player, it depends on the program. I think for the most part, I've seen pretty good behavior. But but I don't know. I had a daughter that was refereeing, and she was getting, this is like U9 or U10 soccer, and she was getting hammered by a coach, and she said, "I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore." So,
Yeah.
it happens. And so I think we gotta train our coaches, and our coaches need to talk to our parents. But we also have to have more referee mentors out there. I know a few of the refs that go to these, they're higher level referees, and they come and do the U9, U10 games to try to work with the referees. And I think we need more of that too.
See, I was wondering when you said that you did bench control, I was wondering if the first thing they teach you is if to ask the players if they or the fans if they want to watch from the. That's what I want. Do you want to watch from the parking lot? That's like the first thing they teach you. Just ask them that question, and then you go from
Yeah.
there.
I've never had to address it. I've
Yeah.
given a coach a yellow card one time.
Ooh.
To me, it's when it becomes personal, right?
Yeah.
So you can question a call. I'll even give you a few seconds or even a minute or so to grumble about a call, and I think that's within a coach's right, as long as it's not derogative.
Sure.
Once it gets personal and you're saying that I'm such and such, or I don't know this or that, and okay, now you're making it about me, then I think we have to have a real short leash for that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a parent, player, or a coach.
Hair's off limits too. You can't talk about the hair.
Well, the hair's too
No.
gorgeous. But when you get a parent like let's say like myself, right? Knowledgeable, understands the rules, and just likes to chirp. I mean, I should be given a long leash. I mean, technically, watching it from the parking lot is not a bad idea, but it wasn't that cold out.
No, I think you bring up a good point, because that's half the fun, is that a lot of parents don't know the rules. And I was guilty of it before I became a referee, like when someone scores a goal, you're yelling for offside, and you either you have a terrible angle or you don't even know what offside means. And so I've seen that hundreds of times. And so that's why it just kind of rolls off, that's a foul. Well, not really, you don't know what that is, So that's why I take it with a grain of salt as well.
Do you enjoy, like we've talked about this on the podcast and amongst our dads, is the fun we have with the AR, because they run by you all the time and they're in front of you, and it's fun to have a ref in the center that is also willing to at least engage a little bit of humor. We're not looking for any like free pass here, but is that something that you've run into where you do get a good group of parents and it makes it actually more enjoyable?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. What's funny though is because you're walking as an AR from the corner all the way to the half line, is that you hear like 4 or 5, 6 different conversations going on. So at one section, there might be a couple of moms talking about the homecoming dance tomorrow, and totally not listening to the game. Or there could be a dad talking about, they're not even paying attention. And then if you have somebody who will interact, hey, how much time on the clock? Hey, good job. You got that call right. I love giving it back a little bit. Certainly you got to stay focused on the game, and you don't want to get drawn into something. But yeah, I have a good laugh every once in a while. And so, yeah, keep it light. I think it's perfect. I love that.
Well, good. Then we're doing okay, because we make fun of a lot of ARs. Oh, I shouldn't say we make fun. We interact with the ARs. We've had some pretty good ones. I'm trying to remember. We haven't really had any that were like crotchety or anything, but we've had some that really actually, they like every time they come by us, they chat with us.
Oh yeah. I'll even do some back and forth, like if I'm running and they're like, oh, he's way offside. I'm like, no, he's not, just like, you be quiet. That's playing with fire too, because then you don't want to have to, go back and forth. But I think, I've done enough of them so I can kind of get a feel for, I'd actually rather be on the parent side than the coach's side, because typically the coaches do know what they're talking about, or they'll get in your way because they're standing on your line, or they're gonna try to talk badly about the center referee to you, and so the parent side is way easier.
So just out of curiosity, I don't know the rules of this, but if the coach gets in your way and you accidentally ran into him, like in football, that's a that can be a 15-yard penalty. Is there an infraction in soccer for that if you didn't see him and tripped over him?
Yeah. So by the law, there should be a technical area where there's an area for them to stay.
Hmm.
If I was running and typically I'll see the coach on the line and I'll say, "Coach, I need you to back up," something like that. Give him a warning. And if I ever ran into a coach, I would for sure ask the center referee to give him a yellow card, for being in the wrong place. He's certainly not allowed on the field. If he's on
Right.
the line is part of the field. So, technically you could get a red card for being on the field. So,
Hmm.
I've never had that happen. I did hear a horror story about a girl who totally blew out her hip running into a coach. So, cause sometimes you are so focused, you're looking at your line and then you take off in a dead sprint to try to catch. So you turn, and if somebody's in your way and you're going, full sprint, there's
Hmm.
definitely some injuries that can happen. So, thankfully I haven't seen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a red card, I think. I think if you blow a person's hip out, I think you get a red
Yeah.
card.
Yeah. I think so.
And an insurance card. We're going to get your insurance card.
Yeah, if you make somebody like Coach Sean, then I think you need a card.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if he pulled the gator up onto the field.
Get better soon, Sean. He just had hip surgery.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you ref both boys and girls?
I have, yeah, yeah. So, I would say I started doing more girls games than boys. The girls, the boys are falling all the time. The boys they're just sometimes really dumb. I mean, they will kick each other's legs out when it's like, I'm right here. Why are you doing this? And the girls can be a little sneakier with their fouls. So it's a little harder at the higher levels to referee the girls games, in my opinion, that, with either a jersey tug, or sometimes I've seen pinching going on where they're stepping on each other's feet when they're getting ready for a corner kick, so some shenanigans are going on and they're trying to act all innocent, and it gets pretty physical. The boys, they're just more blatant about it. So, I'd say the hardest games for me to referee are around 14 boys, where they're just skilled enough and fast enough that they can move the ball, but they're still kind of, we'll just say dumb and do these stupid fouls, and you can foul. And so nobody wants to have a game that's a whistle every second, 10 seconds of whistle foul, but sometimes you have to do that. And I've made the mistake of not calling enough fouls, and all of a sudden they think they can get away with that. So it's important kind of to set the tone early. This is not going to be how we play. And that's what I love about refereeing. In basketball, you've got a whistle in your mouth all the time. You're not talking. In soccer, you're having a conversation out there, or you're at least kind of verbalizing, hey, this is what that's not a foul, guys, keep playing, so you're having these kind of conversations. Sometimes just letting them know you're there. Hey guys, I'm right here. I see this, and if you can do that, maybe you avoid having to bring out a yellow card because of a harsh foul, because they hear you, they know this guy's not going to tolerate that. So I think you can do a lot of game management even without a whistle. So that's why I really love soccer refereeing.
Why doesn't the AR? Why can't they yell, or can they yell?
They can. They can't.
Because they don't. And I guess I preference if there's an offsides, they put their flag up, or a foul, they put their flag up, and I'm like, it's always the parents that are yelling, "Hey, look at your AR," and then the ref looks at his AR and says, "Oh."
So,
or that one group had a headset, which was genius.
Yeah. I've never had that. I can't wait. That's gonna be fun. I think it would be great if we could all do that for all the games. But yeah, I mean, Toby, you bring up a couple of good points. I think, excuse me. I think the main thing is it starts with the center referee. It's his responsibility to always be checking in with both of his ARs all the time, making eye contact, getting nonverbal. Yep. thumbs up, things like that. So that's where it starts. And if he's not, then that's something they got to work out. They told us on day one, do not crack those flags, where they try to draw the attention, whacking those flags up in the air. That is not a mode of communication. Get the flag up. And if the center referee doesn't see it, then by all means, yell his name, ideally, you're not yelling sir or referee, because everybody else on the sideline says that. So you get to know his name or her name and shout their name, get them to look over. So ideally they're already looking, but if they're not, there's nothing against you, shouting to get their attention. So
Interesting. I always thought that they were supposed to do the flag whip, because that's what every one of them does. They all do
no, you're not supposed to.
That's so funny.
I know. I hate it. I actually hate it. I think it sounds cool when you do whip one up real quick, and you've got an offside. Sometimes I get satisfaction bringing it up real quick.
Ruining some
but
kid's
once
day.
it's up, you're not supposed to be whipping it and whacking it. No.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to
So,
know.
any other differences you noticed between boys and girls? I know you said that you thought the girls were a little more sneaky about their fouls. Any other differences you see in when you referee their games?
I see more retribution type fouls from the boys, and maybe it's just I've for whether or not it's because I've been slow to get to like the U19. I've not done a U19 center for the boys yet. I've done maybe 17s, 18s, but yeah, the boys are calculated with their, number 3 got me, I'm going to get him later. So trying to, and I'm sure the girls are doing it too, but maybe just not as blatant, so, so I think as they get higher up, they're looking to send a message back to somebody. And so within the first 5 or 10 minutes, typically you've got an idea of who the knucklehead on the team is, the person that's going to just do dumb fouls, or, sees red and they're looking to, a lot of times in soccer, you'll make the pass and then the referee will shift focus to the ball, and then they take the player out afterwards. So sometimes you may watch that person a little bit longer to see if there's shenanigans after the pass. So I think it's just like anything, more experience. And then the other thing that referees do, I talked about, we have a pregame meeting where we talk about what you've seen, talk about some rules. We talk about, here's how I want to call it. Don't whip your flag, those kinds of things. We talk about mechanics, but then we have a post game and we're supposed to talk for, a couple of minutes of, hey, how would you have called this? What did you see? And so like I said, the referee community is pretty supportive. There's all kinds of, like anything, there's Reddit pages and there's YouTube forums and things like that where you break down a play and so the kids in my household, Dad's watching ref videos again. It's like, it's just kind of become my go-to. I got 15 minutes to kill. I'm going to go watch some referee videos.
Man, Jake's over here trying to better himself, and I'm watching car crash videos in my house.
Oh,
Jeez.
I watch plenty of those too. Idiots in Cars compilation. Yeah. I definitely am watching that.
I love
I
it.
will say the boys tend to score, and then it's a theatrical performance. It is fantastic. And I try talking to Macy all the time. I'm like, listen, put the ball in that, background off, and then do a flip. Like, make it fun. Do the airplane. Run around like an airplane for a while. And they don't, right? The girls all shake hands, they hug, and then they go get ready. Where the boys are in the corner building
Pumping
a lap.
fists.
I mean, it's awesome.
Taking shirts off.
Right. So are they allowed, like, how much time are you giving them to dance? Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never had excessive celebration where I had to, like, blow the whistle and, enough boys. So I think they kind of get it that, okay, the game's got to start, so I think, you just know when it feels like, okay, you're taunting or you're being excessive. So there's no rhyme or reason to how many minutes, and that's the beauty of, I guess in club sports, you kind of look at your watch and you say, okay, we're going to add another minute for this. In high school, when they score, they stop the clock. So you can take as much time as you want. You're not burning any clock.
Okay.
Are there any great dances you've seen?
Any great dances?
Anything that you want to incorporate into your household life?
I like how the girls are now starting to do their special handshakes with each other before they come onto the court or come onto the field. So I'm all for that. That's a good team chemistry. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
Oh, no doubt.
So do you have any really good stories of players or parents that you could share with us that maybe we haven't seen, since you've seen so many more games than us?
I had some good ones. I had a good parent interaction that Toby would probably like. Is I was right in, and it's different how your mannerisms are when you're right in front of the parents section. Like if I'm 10 yards away, I know all eyes are going to be on me whether I blow a whistle or not. And so, excuse me. It was a higher level boys game, 17, 18-year-old boys, and there was a foul, and I probably should have blew the whistle, and I go. And then I was like, nah, maybe not. And it wasn't that there was an advantage. He lost the ball. He kind of got blown out, lost the ball. And for whatever reason, I changed my mind. And this dad was like, that's not a pacifier. If you put that thing to your mouth, you better blow it or something like that. And I was like, oh, that was good. I think I gave him a thumbs up. I'm like, yep. Just that's
awesome.
That's good gamesmanship, So
that's clean, healthy fun there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, the stuff the good stories I have are just like in referee development and so I typically will try. The referees are pretty annoying. If you get a group of us together, we're gonna all talk about rules and what's a handball and was that an offside or not? And so a lot of the talk that we'll have or the stories we share are on scenarios on whether or not you would call that, or what was the worst coach dismissal, or which coaches have are you're going to red card today? So I've never given a red card, which I'm not afraid to do one, but it has to be warranted. It's a pretty severe penalty if you think about it. Not only you're going to play a person down, but there could be league implications. I know in high school you're going to miss a couple of games. There's some where we go back and say I probably should have given a yellow here. I've never had an opportunity where I thought, oh, I did have one. This will be a good story. When we went to Iowa for a tournament, and it was just me and Claire, and so I was like, I'm gonna do a few games. They need referees. An email went out to all the parents. Hey, if you're a referee, bring your gear. And so I did. I signed up to do a bunch of games. I did 2 or 3, 14, 15-year-old girl games. I think even. I didn't do our team, obviously, but I did other games in our division. But they needed help on a U9 game. I'm like, I kind of was like, that's a little below me, but yeah, I'll do it. You need me, so
he's level 7.
So yeah, exactly. Like I had no big, as long as I'm not getting 4 or 5 of those, I'll do one.
Do you know who I am?
Exactly. Thank you. A little reality check, but these kids are great. I mean, they're nothing but energy at U9, and they all think they're going to go pro, and the parents are even worse. They are so energetic, and every touch on their kid, it has to be a foul. And so like it was high stakes, and you think about it, it's a U9 tournament or U10 or whatever. And so a kid gets gets fouled, and he gets up and I think spit at the kid that fouled him. And so it's clear in the laws of the game that spitting is a red card offense. You're done. You're done for the day. You might be done for the tournament.
Hmm.
And I chickened out. I was like, I don't want to give this little kid he's going to go crying, and so I talked to him, and it was like, I'm going to assume that you weren't spitting at that player. And if you were, that would have been a red card. And then I went and talked to his coach, and I said, hey, I think this kid needs to sit. This is what I saw. I don't know. I'm not going to red card him. And I've told this story to other referees. They're like, oh, you should have red carded him. It would have sent the message that he'd never forget. And maybe everybody else on the field would have. And I'm like, well, I don't. You relive those moments, and like, should I have? I think I sent a strong enough message, but who knows? So that was pretty funny. Yeah,
They would have followed you to the parking lot for sure. Those parents.
Oh yeah, we'd have been dragging you out of behind a Honda, like just trying to get you out of there.
But those are the stories you hear about from other referees. Hey, we heard about this guy where they had to call the police and escort the referee out of there. And so as much as we try to do the game management and we talk to the players and we're trying not to, sometimes it's a heated game and yellow cards come followed by red cards, or parents and spectators come onto the field, and so that's part of the training too, is what are you going to do in this situation? Do your ARs come and they have your back, and do you go right to your cars? So that's, I haven't had that. And I think that's the scary part of the sport, is you hear the horror stories about a game that got out of control and a referee that got hit or even intimidated. Nobody wants that. So,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I haven't been a part of that. I chalk it up to, I'm not maybe doing that level of competitive game, but we've heard about it. It could be a rec game for U12 and nonsense can happen. So
Yeah.
who knows? People are crazy sometimes.
Start to carry a billy club in your bag.
After that game in Schaumburg, I just assumed red cards were like candy. You just hand them out to whoever.
Yeah, that's a great statement right there. So, Jake, what is the rule on? Can you give a parent a red card? Because were you in Schaumburg?
I was.
When it was 8 degrees.
Yeah.
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah. I think by the laws of the game, no, you can't. You can only give a red card to the players or the bench or the coaching staff. I think, technically you can certainly tell anyone to leave and get kicked out. That's within your authority. And so looking back and anybody who didn't hear this story, the parents were just riding the referees and he got into a verbal exchange back and forth. No, I saw this. You saw, and was it 5 minutes? I mean, it was a long time that they were interchanging, and then eventually he was bringing out red cards to multiple fans.
You get a red card. You get a red card.
And it's easy when you're not in the moment, because when your pulse is racing and you feel verbally assaulted, you might not always have the clearer head. But what they tell us to do is to go talk to the coach. Coach, we're not starting this game until those 3 people leave. And that's fine. If they don't want to leave, we're not going to start the game. And then if we don't ever start, then it's a forfeit, and you take it up with the league office or the tournament director. And so you just really eliminate yourself from that situation. You don't have to be the security guard for if something they said is that bad that I think they should leave, then I'll tell somebody who can enforce that. And so in the high school, we get the ADs, the athletic directors are at every game. So you can tell the athletic director, hey, there's 2 people up there that are heckling that I've said no more. And, typically they want you to tell and warn and then dismiss, kind of to use that depending on the severity of what you're hearing. And so if it goes straight to, F-bombs or whatever else, then you have every authority to eject anyone. I've seen YouTube clips where they eject the entire fans and said, we're not starting until the fans are gone. That's, I think, maybe a referee that didn't have control of that game, but who knows?
Yeah, I've asked as a game manager. I'm not the AD, obviously, but I have had to have some conversations with some fans, parents and otherwise, just to tone it down a little bit. And if it continues, then we will ask them to leave. And those have all been at soccer games, surprisingly enough. I think I had one at a basketball game where I had to talk to somebody, but usually
Yeah.
the parents are the ones that get the most fired up or at soccer, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, soccer, they can, well, in club, they're right on the field, right? So
Yeah.
they're 3 yards away sometimes from a referee. Football and maybe high school soccer, sometimes you got that separation from the track, but there's a lot of soccer only fields where they're right on the lines. So yeah, I think that has
we
something
could be
to do
six,
with it.
7 beers deep. You never know.
Well, and that's it. You guys have been talking about hockey, and some of the hockey tournaments we go to where it's not affiliated with the school, and you can serve alcohol at it. I'm sure those get rowdy, with the referee chants and whatever else. So thankfully, that we've had our libations, but we haven't had anything where I feel like fans are losing their control on the field.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with hockey, and it's kind of a cultural thing. It seems like with that sport, I actually, people will remain nameless, but this, one of the games that I was recently managing, um, I overheard some parents basically say, "Oh yeah, let's head out to the car and get a drink." It was intermission, and then at intermission they go out to the car, drink, and then they come back in. It's like it's just part of that's just the way it is,
Yeah,
and that is a big part of hockey culture.
yeah. We were in travel baseball for a little while, not long enough where our kids were getting older. So I can't speak to it if it's at the older ages too. But you'd go on these tournaments and you were tailgating between games because you were at a park for 8-10 hours, and certainly by the last game there were definitely parents that were not feeling any pain. So I'm sure that the heckling got louder as the day progressed.
Yeah, there was actually one recently too, another one where the Spash was winning, and all of a sudden this dad comes down and he starts running in front of the student section, like back and forth, trying to get everybody crazed and riled up. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? We do our best to try to keep the student section lively, but not out of control. And this guy comes down. You could tell he was 3 sheets to the wind and just flying around, trying to get them all. Let's get going. And I'm like, dude, just pump the brakes.
Right.
We were trying to keep these guys somewhat under control. It was unbelievable. I've never seen that prior or since.
That's funny.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's the beauty. I know you guys have talked already about the difference in club and high school sports and certainly there's many differences and pluses and minuses in both, but the whether you're refereeing in front of a crowd or you're playing in front of a crowd, there's nothing like that big audience where there's interaction after a call, or there's interaction after a goal or a good play. And, I know the club sports, at least, we bring a pretty good size audience, but we're also spread along 50 yards of playing field where they kind of pack them in more in the high school in the stands. And so I think it's important for them to get a taste of both. So I'm glad you guys are touching on some of those topics.
What's your opinion on it? Where do you think? I mean, it sounds like you prefer maybe to play in front of a high school crowd, but like any thoughts on those topics? Like, where do you think sports are going, club versus high school?
Well, I mean, I can really only speak to soccer. I don't know enough. I know um, the soccer. There's so much disparity between the good teams and the bad teams that there's there's less competitiveness in a lot of the games. And so you'll see some of the better teams kind of go through a lot of 8-0, 10-0. Let's call this thing at 60 minutes and then the game's over, and so that's not good for anybody, the parents, refs, or the players. I don't, other than maybe it's fun to score some extra goals, but we don't see that as much in club soccer. We see a lot of 2-0, 1-0, 0-0 ties. And so from a quality of soccer, I love what we're seeing with our club teams. And when we get a good high school game, like I said, it's fun when that place is rocking and you get the student sections actually showing up for soccer, which, by the way, I love that, it's not just football. We're seeing more students show up for soccer now. So I think that's a good thing. We were talking about it today. I think basketball might be that way a little bit, with AAU being more of the recruiting vehicle, and high school is more of, school spirit. And I think it's less of a disparity though, because it's only 5 players on the court. But yeah, I see the value to both. And I think it would be a shame if one went away, I understand that there's always going to be that elite, couple of percent at the top that say, I'm going to focus, and, this high school thing is not for me because I need to, travel to Minneapolis and do boarding school over there so I can get to a good soccer pro. Those players are the exception. When that percentage of people, grows to a point where it's watering down the high school sports, then I think we have to reassess. But I don't think we're there right now. I think there's room for both, and I think there just has to be more communication between the club and the high school level. But neither wants to budge, so it's not an easy conversation. But hopefully there's room for both.
Yeah.
I got a quick question here. We've talked about the good side. What about the bad call? Have you decided or had any part of an outcome of the game where after you went and sat in your car and you're like, oh man, this is a bad thing?
As the people pounding on your windshield.
Well,
I screwed up.
Just rocking in your car like, oh man, what do I say? Sorry, folks. That was me.
Well, I always kind of reflect after a game. What we say when we're in our pregame is like, don't screw up the game critical decisions, So if you've got a foul in the middle of the field and you miss it and the guy tells you to put a pacifier in your mouth, then I'm fine with that. I won't really think about that other than well done, but it's when it's inside the penalty area, those are the critical ones. And so, the first thing you want to do is are you in the right position to make that call? Did you bust your butt down the field to get within 10, 20 yards of that to be in a position to see it? Because if you were being lazy and you're 50 yards away, then that's on you. So that's the first thing is, was I in the right position? And so I've never had one where I'm like, oh, I got that wrong. I think I've been in some where I said, that could have gone either way. This is kind of what I thought I saw in the moment. Upon further review, maybe that was one I should have let go or something like that. So it was never like a blatant miss. I think I had one where I had a penalty kick, right? And the player kicked it. It went off the frame of the goal, and then the player put it in the goal, and I awarded a goal. Well, technically, that ball's not in play until another person touches it, right? And I didn't know that rule, or I'd forgotten that rule, and thankfully my assistant referee flagged me down, and we got it right. And that's the main thing you want to do is huddle up before you start play, because once you start, you can't go back. And so huddle up and talk about it. I've had a couple instances. I had one in a high school game where we called a goal. I put a flag in for offside. He came, talked to me. We called off the goal. And then we huddled up with the other AR and he said no goal. And then we went back and said goal. Like it went back and forth. It was crazy. I'd recommend don't do
How do
that.
we piss everybody
Oh
off?
my
I
God.
know.
You're not going to win. That's what they say. What they say is just sell it. Be confident with your whistle, with your flag, and if somebody's like, oh, I don't know about that, just say, oh, I saw it perfectly. I was right there. At that point, indecision, it hurts everybody. It hurts your credibility. Everyone's going to second guess every call from there on out. So that game derailed after that. We called a goal, called it off, called a goal. And so from then on, every call was questioned. And I think that there were coaches got yellow cards, all kinds of yellow cards for players. It was nuts. So, but yeah, so there was one, and I'll talk to the coaches after the game and say, here's what I saw. And they'll say, no, that was incidental contact with the hand. I don't think that was a foul. But for the most part, the coaches will say, you were right there. You had to make the call. I've not had somebody, rip me a new one and say, you just missed it. And I think it's because I work hard to get in the right position to see it. I think you lose all credibility if you're 50 yards behind the play and you're not working hard out there.
Yeah.
Then you don't really have a leg to stand on that you saw it better than anyone else. So I really work hard to try to get in the right position, be there, communicate. And then, like I said, now that I've done 7 years of it, I've done enough games where I kind of know what to expect. It's those things that you don't expect to happen that might catch you off guard, but I don't know. And I may have blown one or two, but the other team might say I got it right. So some of those 50-50 ones, you're going to piss off half the team and the other half are going to love you for it. So
That's a good point. That's true. No matter how bad you are, one team's probably going to love you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Right? That's actually a good point.
Sure.
Worst
that's
you can
where
do is 50%.
where basketball is a subjective call on every play. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul? Where soccer, there's some building, and then there's those connections where players connect but it's not happening every time, every 10 seconds. So
yeah.
I think that's where basketball is a little more, nuanced, that there's more, how are you going to call the game? I'm going to let things go, or I'm going to call it really tight, no hand checking, so I'm still feeling that out only 2 years in of what is a foul and what's not a foul. Where in soccer, I feel a little more confident in my foul selection of, I know that's a foul. I've seen that. And I've established early what I'm going to call as a foul and what I'm not going to call. So you kind of let the players know that.
So as a soccer referee, I got to ask you one thing then about soccer. How can we get the flopping out of male soccer? It's not as bad in women's soccer, but when you watch like the World Cup and these guys, you'll see they barely get contacted and they're just flailing around on the ground. From a refereeing perspective, I know you can call a flop, but they don't normally do it. How do you stop them from doing that? Because it does get a little annoying at times.
Yeah, for sure. And then it turns into time wasting and fake
Yes.
injuries. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's better than it was maybe 5-10 years ago, but it's still pretty bad. I don't think it's something the referees are going to be able to fix, honestly.
Okay.
I think a simulation call is a yellow card offense, and it's a severe penalty. So if you come in there and say somebody didn't get fouled, and especially at the highest levels where they have all these angles and reviews, and I think it's got to be really obvious, and they're only calling it now typically in the penalty area when somebody's trying to draw a penalty kick. I think it's going to have to be more of a cultural shift where the players monitor it and that is the weakest thing you can do is to roll around and you should be embarrassed that you're doing that, but I don't think it'll go away because it works, right? Because
Yeah.
that if somebody's hurt and the referee's job is to ensure safety on the field, right? And if
Yeah.
somebody's hurt and I say you're not hurt, we're you can go ahead and lay down there. We're going to keep playing, and it turns out he actually did bust his knee. Then I'm gonna be in trouble because I didn't
Right.
stop play and get this guy off the field. So from that standpoint, I don't think the referees are going to be the ones that change that, but maybe calling more simulation, that would put an end to some of the ones trying to drop penalty kicks. But you hit it on the head. I mean, in the World Cup, we saw it a lot, not just for penalties, but for fouls all over the field from the start of the game to the end of the game. And for the non-soccer fan who's not used to it, it's a real turnoff because, they see it as a real weak thing, and it's dramatic and it deters from the action of the game. So I've kind of gotten used to it.
And they're such great players too. That's the thing that's just, it's unfortunate. But anyways, I was just curious from your perspective.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't like it.
With Claire now reffing, is it more nerve-wracking to watch her play or to watch her ref?
Ooh.
Well, I've only reffed with her a handful of times, maybe four or five times, and I really enjoyed it. And she's only been at the center a couple of times. She obviously knows the rules, so that was no difficult feat for her to get out there and get the certification. And where I was really impressed with Claire was that she had the confidence to get out there and talk to, and kids that are maybe only 2 years younger than her. She actually was assistant referee on a couple of my U19 games, and was calling girls offsides. And I'm like, that takes a lot of guts to do that. So I think she's got the right head on her shoulders to do that, have that confidence. And that, I'll go back to that. I think that we need more kids to take up refereeing because it can really hit on a lot of the skills that can help you in life or in sports. You're doing management, you're talking to your peers or other players. You have a team of referees, and sometimes as the center referee, you're kind of the boss of the other two, and you kind of, work together as a team, but you're kind of the one in charge. So there's some delegation and some pre-call planning and post-game analysis. So all of those things are great skills. And then, talking to coaches who are adults and working on, that type of skill, communication. It's such a great skill to have. So I encouraged all three of my kids to become referees just to have that type of interaction and those types of experiences. But I love watching her play. I'd say I'd rather watch her play than referee. But, I always joke with the family. I'm like, I'm reffing today at 7. If you guys want to get over to the fields, I'm on field 4. Oh, yeah, we'll see you there. Nobody ever comes to watch me ref, and that's okay.
Well, maybe we will one time if we're out of town one day.
Oh, yeah, there's a few fans that I'd love to hear some heckling from. So,
we should broadcast one of his games and just, we could really talk about the finer points of his calls.
Probably do it from the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Let's see. So, let's see. What else did we want to ask? So Jake, one of the things I'll ask you right now as we're thinking about, as I'm thinking about it, what name do you want to give this podcast, this episode?
Well, you already took the one, referees are human too, or something. What was the previous referee one?
Why do we hate them?
Why do we hate them? Yeah. So I thought that was queuing up for my episode, but obviously now we've shown the human side of referees. So
that's right. So here's what I got for today's episode. You tell me if you like this one. That is a whistle, not a pacifier.
That's got to be it. That's
what I was thinking.
That's got to be it.
Okay. Well, so we solved that then. We got that out of the way. We got to make sure we get that. What sports did you play? You said you played baseball when you were a kid. Did you play soccer?
I played soccer. I played through maybe sophomore year of high school. And then I played baseball through about eighth grade. I'm trying to think. I ran cross country in high school.
Okay.
I played 1 year of varsity basketball in junior year. I was a jack of all trades, master of none. I was in theater. I did music. I was in band. So yeah. So I did a little bit of everything, and I was great at none of them.
Well, that's okay though. Have you ever heard the full quote for the jack of all trades?
No.
A jack of all trades and a master of none, but often better times than a master of one. There's
Oh.
the second half of that quote never gets said, but it's actually the one that I'd say that to my classes. I'm like, sometimes it's actually good to be a person that can do a lot of different things because you have a broad experience, you have a different perspective, and so it's actually better than just having one trade. Because if you're really good at one thing and then that thing ceases to be necessary or ceases to be relevant, you are no longer needed anymore.
That is true.
Wait a minute.
You
So,
I
are
don't want to turn this
obsolete.
podcast into an educational thing because I'm out there.
oh,
So I
sorry,
got
sorry,
nothing to
sorry.
add. But that is interesting because I've never heard it.
Yeah, there's a second half to that quote that's very important. But anyways,
Hey, Jake, I got a soccer question. I don't know if you can answer this, but we go from U9 10 fields, right? They're real small.
Yeah.
And then at U13, you're like, out of hell with it. Let's go for it. And we put them on the biggest field possible. Like, why isn't there a middle field? Is it?
I guess.
I'm sure, and I know you don't know, but is it space? But it's the dumbest thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess technically the U11 and U12 is the middle field because I think
hmm
they do have the really, really little fields with no goalies and those tiny little
Yeah,
goals. But I see what you're saying. There is no um, there's no middle step from those U12 9v9 to the now we're going 11v11, and sometimes those are daunting. I guess there's some leeway to what is the true size of the field. So there's no set size. I think it can be like 100 yards or 110 yards, or it can be 80 yards wide, or somebody. I don't have those laws memorized, but we'd probably try to get the U13s and 14s on the smaller big fields. But yeah, that's interesting because when you make that jump, that those 13-year-olds don't feel like they can get that ball cleared, or and so
mm-hmm.
so I think that's always been there's a development year for sure. And I think a lot of programs are saying, hey, when we're in U12, let's spend a couple of months on these big fields, because to make that jump all at once, that's a challenge, and so it makes for some tough soccer to watch, I think, because the if you've got one girl or one boy who can kick it 50, 60 yards, then that team's going to win a lot of games because then they can
Right.
boot it and chase it. And so I know a lot of the coaches are trying to like get that out of your game. We're going to build something here. We're going to try. And so it gets hard for the teams who are trying to coach soccer the right way. They might lose more games because they're trying to develop those skills so that in 2 or 3 years, now all of a sudden that dump and chase isn't going to work anymore. But you'll definitely see some 13-year-olds running the score up because they got a girl in the defensive line that can kick it 60 yards, and they've got a fast little forward who can catch it. So yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, it's interesting about the fields though, because they have to be a certain length, right? But you can make the width. So in rugby, we could do that too. We had to have a certain length, but when we played fast teams, we would shrink the field.
Oh, really?
And then, we didn't win a lot back in the day. We tried hard, but then when we'd, if there were a different team, we would make the field bigger. And I say that thinking maybe, but I think sometimes when we lined it in the dark also, and we didn't really pay attention. But
Yeah.
that's interesting in soccer that you can, because we've seen some pretty poorly placed fields. I know Jeremy wasn't on the team yet, but we went to Grand Rapids, and it looked like me and another dad did it at like 4 a.m. after a lot of beer. It was really bad.
That was
It was
bad,
impressive.
and that
how bad it
field
was.
condition was terrible. Yeah, but
Yes.
there is a range on the maximum and minimum for the width and the length. Those can change as long as they're within that tolerance. So you'll
Yeah.
see smaller fields and bigger fields.
And then why do they put the flag on the corner? Like I know why, right? So the ball goes out for a corner, but it's like to try to kick a corner kick, you got like 4 inches you got to try to navigate. It just seems very difficult to me.
It is. Yeah, I don't know. Some of those girls have figured it out, and they get their leg wrapped around that ball to get that ball the distance and speed they're looking for. But you're right. Yeah, I think a couple reasons the flag's there so that whether it's a goal kick or a throw in, you've got that visual marker on where that dividing the flag is part of the field. So obviously, if it hits the flag and comes back on, it's still in. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Especially, I think it becomes challenging on those indoor fields or those turf fields where they have like a base stanchion, and then that builds up to a flag. So then instead of just being like a 1 inch or a half inch pole to the ground, you've got like a whole 1 foot base at the bottom, so it takes up even more room. So I think those could be challenging for the girls taking corners.
Yeah.
That's when you
Just
run
all
the short
things that I
play.
don't understand. Yeah, right. I think that's number 3, just in case. Like 2. Well, don't worry. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows them.
So if somebody's is sane enough like you to want to get into being a referee, what advice would you give them to pursue this path of glory and bliss that is a referee?
Financial freedom.
You find that? Yes,
Oh
all
my
the money
gosh,
that you
yeah.
make as well.
That's right. I would ask a referee, get a mentor to kind of help guide you through it. It's a little bit cumbersome and clunky on the website because you have to go through like US Soccer Learning Center, so it's all affiliated with that. But I think the referees I mentioned a couple of times, they're pretty tight community, and they're always looking to recruit people into it. So if you know a referee, ask. Or if you ever had the courage to just approach a referee after a game and say, "Hey, I was thinking about doing this. Do you have any advice?" I think just jump in and do it. I think, what's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to make a mistake. Well, the players make 100 mistakes in a game, so you're entitled to make a couple as a referee as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's part of the learning process.
I'm
So
sorry
after
I
a
laughed
highly
when you said. Oh, go
right,
ahead.
I think I'm with you. I was going to say, so after a highly intense game, I should go,
Just
if I go sprinting up to the ref and then be like, "Hey, I would like to ref."
okay, we were on the same wave. Like I'm just envisioning this like super intense game. You're chasing this ref down. He's like, "Oh my god!" And you're like, "How do I become a ref?" That'd probably blow his mind.
Yeah. You did such an amazing job that you inspired me to
You were
now pursue this as a
awesome.
career.
That's funny. Has that ever happened? Just out of curiosity.
No,
Oh,
I do try to avoid contact with any spectators after the game, though. Typically, even the
yeah.
coaches, I'll, if they have a question or something, I'll give them a couple minutes, but then it's like, just get out of Dodge. Nothing good's going to happen.
You don't go hang out with the winner?
Right.
Because that looks good too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Jump in their celebration circle, start high-fiving people.
Right.
These are things not to do. This is what they tell you. Don't do this.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. So, anything else that we didn't cover, Jake, as we start to land this plane? Anything that we haven't talked about that you feel like is a good topic for refereeing?
No, I think you guys hit it all. I think it's really fun to be a part of the show, and I wish you guys luck as you grow your audience. And I know you came into this with no expectations, and this is not going to be professional, but it gets a little more professional every week. You're adding, pregame credits and pre-show credits and music and now guest speakers. So yeah, that's I love it. So just keep it up.
All right, cool. Yeah,
It's fun.
It is fun. Yeah, we're having a good time with it. It's just, we're learning a lot. I was telling Toby, I think it was last week. I'm like, man, all this technical stuff, like the technology failures that we keep having. It's like I wouldn't have thought too much. I kind of know how to do certain things. I wouldn't have thought it'd be that complicated. But yeah, I keep having some new things you learn every week. That's for sure. And both of us do.
Yeah. Well,
but it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely a good time. So. Toby, anything else you wanted to ask Jake?
No, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on. I know we took some time to get here, but you were traveling, and if you're seen on the street, and I don't know, maybe you'll get recognized, maybe for the right reasons.
I'm going to be sending this out to all my fans out there, so I'm hoping you get a little bump in the numbers here. So,
hey, question: did you listen to any of the broadcasts when you were in overseas?
I did. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, because
I've listened to all your episodes. I'm telling you, I'm one of your biggest fans.
We picked up 3 international viewers, and I think it was you and Joe. Joe was down in Italy, so it made us look like we're worldwide. So we really appreciate that.
That's awesome.
That's right. The audience. I came back to Toby. I'm like, somebody listened in England, France, and Germany, and in Italy. I'm like, what is going on? They're like, oh, that's right. We got fans traveling. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Hey, if so those of you listening out there, if you do have questions, maybe anything you want to ask Jake, judgingbouncingballs@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Shoot us a question out there if you'd like. I believe we even have, I just learned this, we have the option of a voice recording you can send us on Spotify, which I didn't even know is a thing. So if you want to do that, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to answer any questions or take some feedback or suggestions as well. But we appreciate you listening. And again, if you can subscribe on YouTube, that will have some benefits down the road where we can start to do things live from a mobile device. I'm thinking when we start getting into season, we might start doing some live streams through that. So if you could get us to that 50 subscriber amount, we're only a few away. So anybody that has not done so yet, that would be much appreciated. Anything else in closing to add here, guys?
No, great job, Jake. Been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think this is the first broadcast we've had where nobody lost connection, which is awesome.
I came next to the Wi-Fi machine, like whatever it's. I'm like next to it.
No, this is good, and it's not just been you, Toby. Yeah. We've had issues, so luckily we have not today, which is awesome. So thanks again, Jake. We really appreciate you jumping on. Awesome to chat with you, and we will be back next week. So we're looking forward to it.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
Jake, hang on a second once we're done.